Hey everybody, what's up? Another episode of Bored on a Thursday here with JJ. I'm your host, Chris Burden. JJ, what's up?
What's going on, guys?
So today we thought we'd change it up a little bit. We're gonna do the last episode me and JJ did together was our top five superhero movies. We're gonna kind of go in that same vein, but more of a sports angle. So today is gonna be our top 10 sports movies of all time. Now this is our favorite movies. These aren't like the ones that we think are necessarily the best production value or anything like that. It's just the ones that we feel are our favorites. So um, I tried to go for a little bit more than 10. JJ wouldn't allow it. So, and then he tried to have honorable mentions, and I wouldn't allow that. So strictly 10, no mentions of any other movies whatsoever. So JJ, what do you have as your 10th best or 10th most favorite sports movie?
So it's really hard for me to have any movie list without the appearance of the greatest actor of all time, which is Brad Pitt. So
Mm,
I'm going to start this off with Moneyball, one that I really love. Super enjoyable to watch. It's one I always catch myself inside. I love looking at, like, even if it's so Hollywooded up that it's super stupid dramatic. I love looking at behind the scenes, like the inner workings. Love the GM aspect of it and everything. Of course, Brad brings it home because he's awesome. Jonah does a good Fat Jonah, which is his go-to. So it's always a fun one that I knew had to make my list.
I don't agree that I agree that Brad Pitt's a very good actor. I don't think he's the best. Not sure if you've ever seen Leonardo DiCaprio act, but um, I, it didn't make my list, and the reason why is because I felt like it was like you actually saw 15% of the movie. You actually saw people playing sports, and the rest of the time is just him going around like throwing water bottles and throwing chairs and flipping over tables and shit. I liked it, but it didn't make my list. Number 10 for me is Happy Gilmore. So Happy Gilmore is one of those movies that I saw when I was a teenager, and to this day I can't play a round of golf or even think about golf without mentioning this movie in some form. Everything about it was just it was one of, I think it was like Adam Sandler's second big movie, and just everything about it is just so funny and so um, Shooter McGavin's probably one of the best villains in a comedy movie ever. Just all the side characters that they had, the homeless caddy, and of course Chubbs. He's got that one hand that keeps getting broken and stepped on. So for me, number 10 would be Happy Gilmore.
Happy didn't make my list. I didn't even, even
What?
though it didn't make my list. We're at 10. It barely made your list. It's like
It
that's
could
an
have been higher. It probably should have been higher.
um, it just I'm gonna pause this down. It was really hard to get to 10. I pressed you on it because there's a lot. Like I think my original list probably had 25. Like just let me put out movies I like and then try to get it to 10. And I probably reordered it a whole bunch of times. No, but it is a great movie. Super quotable. Um, it's goofy. It's where Adam Sandler goes with. So there's some parts where I'm like, okay, this is a little ridiculous, but it all plays in the end. I'm gonna go into my number nine.
Go ahead.
My number nine is The Natural. Went old school on this one. I don't have a ton of older movies on mine because, like I said, these are our favorites. This one actually came out before I was born, but still one of my favorite. Gotta love some Robert Redford in there. Every time, if you're at the ballpark, you hear The Natural being played whenever a Ranger hits a home run. Always reminds me of the movie. But just super classic film, classic baseball story, good acting. It's overly dramatic, and we all know that, but that's part of the reason I love it.
Yeah, it didn't make my list, but it's one of those, like if we would have gone to 20 or something like that, it would have definitely been on there. Robert Redford's just there's not any Robert Redfords anymore. Like there's not anybody that has come along that they've said, man, that's the next Robert Redford. Like that guy's just every role he plays, he does such a great job. And like you said, there's just that one moment in that movie is probably one of the most memorable moments in sports movies or in cinema. Period. So
Greatness.
Even though it didn't make my list, it's a really good movie. It's I don't fault you for putting it up there. My number 9 is a little movie from a vast. I had to pick one from this vast grouping of titles that's in its catalog, and that is Rocky 3. Rocky 4, if we're just going on montages, Rocky 4 would have been here, but Rocky 3 had everything. It had Mr. T, it had the unveiling of Rocky's statue, it had Thunder Lips, which was Hulk Hogan. I don't know if you remember that. It was for charity.
Yeah.
And then, Mick dies. You get to see Sty Stallone just really, put the acting chops front and center. I mean, just really brought everything he had to it. As far as my most enjoyable Rocky, I feel like I had to have a Rocky movie up here. And for me, Rocky 3 is the best one.
I did put a Rocky in there. It's a different one. It was close, like you said. So right now I'll stick with 3. 3's great just because now we know the star power. When you look at all the people in there, like you say, like Hulk just happened to being in there is awesome. But all these movies are great. I mean, you could, one to kind of hit it home, but I think 1 and then especially 3 and 4 are some solid ones. But I'll give you my choice up a little bit later.
Cool. What do you got at number 8?
Got the going Hoosiers. As a professional coach, you got to always think like Gene is the man. The speeches, the passion. Another classic film that was slightly before I was born, but always enjoyable to watch. If it's on TV, I gotta at least see if the great locker room talk is around, where I can at least catch that part. But man, love this movie. Gets you fired up. I don't know. It's just greatness.
Hoosiers didn't make my list, and the reason why is I just felt it's an awesome movie and it's great. But as far as like my favorite, I don't know. The movies ahead of it, I would rather, like, if I'm sitting there and I have a choice of which ones to watch, I'm gonna pick these movies over Hoosiers, and that's kind of how I went into my rankings. Is like, if I had to choose between 2, if I had to pick one, which one would I watch right now? And then that's the one I went with. Hoosiers has, a ton of memorable moments. Like when I always remember when they go to the big gym for the state championship and he's measuring the goal and the free throw line. And he's basically showing them that like it's the same thing as their gym. So when I was in high school, we got my sophomore year, we got a new coach, and he actually had us watch that, like our first or second practice or something. And I think my coach tried to be a lot like Gene Hackman in the movie. I'm not sure that was the best for, late 90s, 2000s. But, Gene Hackman, he's one of my favorite actors of all time. I mean, the movies he's been in and what he brings to that role was just awesome in my book. So, again, it wasn't on my list, but it would have been there if we'd have gone a couple picks farther. Number 8 for me, and this, I don't know if this will be on yours. I doubt it will, but I had to have it up there, is Bloodsport. Now, a few years ago, people might not have thought Bloodsport is a sports movie, but I feel like with MMA and all this stuff kind of, gaining a popularity, that I felt that Bloodsport is, I mean, he does go to a tournament, and he's competing against other great athletes, and there is a trophy at the end. I think it's a huge katana sword, of course. Why wouldn't it be? But this movie had, so it's based on Frank Dukes, who's a real guy, and he escapes the army first because he has to win this title for his sensei or whatever he is. He trains out in the woods blindfolded half the time, and that's how, he's pouring coffee and tea with a blindfold. I mean, that right there, who else could do that? He breaks a middle brick out of 3, somehow breaks the middle brick without the other 2 being harmed. Amazing. And then he loses Forrest Whitaker in a foot pursuit. He watches his friend get paralyzed, and then has night terrors on the subway that the guy who paralyzed him is sitting right next to him. I mean, it's just the psychological warfare between him and Chun Li. You know, he fought E Honda at one point, and he fought the guy that looks like the professional. So just all those things, and it's just, is it cheesy? Yes, but is it one of the best like fighting sports movies ever? Of course it is.
That's awesome. I give you kudos for even going there. I don't know that I even popped into my mind. Of course, that movie's awesome. I didn't even go there. I thought maybe along the lines of popped into my head were like Karate Kid at one point. I was like, okay, that could be sports, and then The Warrior, which Tom Hardy's great.
That's a great movie too.
So those are like tinkering, but I didn't go as far as Bloodsport. So kudos on that. But yeah, it's an awesome movie. I got to do some more blindfold training.
I think everybody should. I don't think people are prepared if everybody goes blind at the same time. We're not prepared. Yeah. So, have you given number 8 yet?
I gave.
Was that Hoosiers?
8. Yeah, I gave 10, 9, 8. Yeah, I gave 8.
All right. So, what do you got at 7?
There's a lot of Kevin Costner movies that come up when I think great sports. He's like that guy. This is his jam. So I decided I was going to stick one of my favorites in there, especially if we're really honing in on sports, and that's Field of Dreams. As a kid, I freaking loved that movie. Like, that was so go-to for me. Always watched it on. I feel like baseball is just as a sport for that, like, over the top, like America and the pastime and everything has such a good grasp on these movies. Like, I feel like it's really hard to make a great football movie as opposed to like you can go back and make a baseball movie a little bit easier. Field of Dreams always stuck with me, especially from the kids. So maybe picking this as a 10-year-old JJ, but I love this movie.
Field of Dreams didn't make my list. I had it on there initially, but I put another movie in there instead as my like go-to baseball film. But Field of Dreams would probably, like, if we would have had an 11th, it would have been the 11th. Like, it's there's just so many cool things. I mean, just a cool like premise. Like, who would have ever thought of that? James Earl Jones is awesome in that movie, and just you don't really appreciate it when you're younger, but when you get older, it's like the other day it came on and I was watching it, and it was the scene where at the end when him and his dad he asked his dad if he wants to play catch, and I'm not saying I teared up, but I'm not saying I didn't. Like, it, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just something that as a kid you remember playing catch with your dad. I mean, it's just, and no matter how old you are or whatever, like, it still brings you back to that. It's probably one of the best scenes. I'm going to say it's probably one of the best singular scenes in a sports movie that I've ever seen. Again, it was tough to kind of narrow this list down. But if I was just going based on best movies, like production and all that stuff, I mean, it would have been top 3 for sure. So definitely a good pick on that one. I decided on some other ones ahead of it, I guess. I'm kind of regretting it, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Number 7 for me is another comedy, a movie that when I first made my list, it wasn't on there. And then it kind of hit me that it wasn't on there, and that's Caddyshack. So just so many you talk about iconic, actors and characters, Rodney Dangerfield, Chevy Chase, Bill Murray. Just, it's kind of the first, it's kind of like Happy Gilmore before Happy Gilmore. It kind of took those, the etiquette and things of golf and kind of turned them up on their heads. You got Rodney Dangerfield with a boombox out on the, fairway. A lot of great quotable lines. And I don't know if you've ever watched the behind the scenes of the making of Caddyshack, but just some of the stuff, Bill Murray and Chevy Chase like hated each other. And I never noticed it, but they're only in one scene together, and they actually had to reshoot that because they realized that their 2 biggest names, they didn't have them on the screen at the same time. So they had to reshoot this thing, and and it was pretty much all improvisation. which is amazing. But again, it's just one of my um, favorite movies. Not just sports movies, and yeah, Caddyshack for sure.
Yeah, I put this one even higher on my list. So you want me to wait on chatting on that one
Yeah,
though?
yeah. Just
Yeah.
wait till you get to it.
All right.
Go ahead.
This is where my Rocky comes in. Tough, man, tough. I think at the beginning I even just had Rocky 1. But as far as my favorite, I'm gonna go 4.
Yeah.
Um, how great, like USA, Russia. Um, I think in a daily life, I probably use if he dies, he dies. I don't know, 3 times a day. Is that too much?
I think it's a little
Um,
bit too much.
okay, all right.
Not sure where you apply that, but
But wherever,
wherever.
any conversation, just try to squeeze that in. This is so great, right? I don't even know if can we even get away with this movie now? Like, if it was like
No,
us versus another country that we're currently feuding with, like it was like I'd be like, oh my gosh, like this is really like we're just straight up calling them out.
it's just to me it's so over the top, but
Oh
so
man,
awesome. Like when Apollo and him fighting that exhibition, it's this huge like spectacle, and he comes out
yeah.
in the hat and the cape basically, and then of course the montage, which is the greatest montage ever,
Oh my god,
and they're
the
just
mountain.
pumping steroids into Dolph Lundgren, as
Yeah.
and me and my brother were talking about it one day, like Rocky's basically just doing chores. Like he's just, he's cutting firewood, he's moving the plow. He's really just kind of doing chores around the house without a shirt on.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and the one thing that I always find funny is how he goes into Russia, and by the end of it, they're all cheering for him. Like that's one of the most probably unbelievable things in movies I've ever seen. Like that would never happen.
Did they need to actually put it on Christmas Day?
The
Because the fight happened on Christmas Day, if you remember that, and I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like,
yeah,
why? Like they're just like it has to be everything. Like
yeah.
they're trying to like fit everything in this one movie. I was like, why is that needed?
uh, so we're gonna have him fight this Russian guy. Also, it's gonna be on the Lord and Savior's birth. Yes, I like it.
We
In
have to
Russia.
make more. Yeah. Yeah. Great film though. Good stuff.
So number 6 for me is I got a lot of comedies on here, and I honestly probably, if I'm really being honest with myself, this one should probably be in like the top 3. Is Kingpin.
Mm.
Woody Harrelson, Bill Murray. Just I look at movies like sports movies specifically, and I think like, what's a movie that when I play that sport or when I do something, it makes me think of that. And I mean, every time I go bowling, I think about this movie. Uh, there's just so many great lines. I think it's Bill Murray's best role. Like it's my favorite role for him. Like being a villain and just being such a dick to everyone, but everybody still loves him. Like he's kind of like the dare I say he's like the modern day Trump. I mean, he
Right.
just goes around. He's like groping people, and everybody's like loving him, and he just doesn't care. I mean, at one point, I think he says that he could kill someone, and he has enough money that they can't do anything about it. So just a great movie of perseverance and a guy down on his luck being able to turn it around. It's one of my favorite comedies, and the fact that sports is attached to it definitely has to put it up there for me.
Yeah, this is one. It probably should have been in mine. This was hard. Like I should have put this in. I do watch this every time. Now that you say it, I'm like, I definitely played around. Should have been hard, but instantly, what do I think of? Like Bill Murray standing there in that ridiculous outfit. The lights are behind him. You can see McCracken's like hair standing straight up, and he's 's got that rose ball in his hand. And I was like, that's what I think of every time, and it just makes me laugh. Like there's so many ridiculous scenes in there that are just so over the top, and it's so great.
You know how you said you say if he dies like multiple times in a day. I'm the same way, but mine is I need you now more than ever. And he's talking to this ball in the middle, and you know it's on ESPN. Woody Harrelson's hand gets stuck in one of the balls, and he's got to pry it out with a freaking screwdriver. I mean, it's
Yep.
just like you said, there's just so many. When him and God, what's the other guy's Randy Quaid.
Randy Quaid.
When him and Randy Quaid are sitting there, and Chris Elliott comes up to him and offers that money and to have sex with each other, and Woody Harrelson's already sitting there like he's sitting there freaking throwing it up in the air, and he's all excited. And Randy Quaid is on the bed with a freaking ice pack on his ass. Like, as a kid, I didn't, when I first saw this, I was probably, I don't know, like 10, 12 maybe. I didn't get it. But man, like, that's about as graphic as you could possibly get away with in a PG-13 movie. But yeah, man, if we're going straight, like I said, if I was really honest with myself, this probably should have been in the top 3. But I knocked it down a few spots just, to be fair.
All right. My next on my list is going to be Remember the Titans. Love this movie. So good. Denzel, this is quintessential Denzel doing his thing, giving speeches, talking. Good movie, great story. What an awesome story. I always, first thing I go to, I Remember the Titans, is when he picks them all up, the middle of the night run down to the battlefield, gives them the speech, gives you the chills every time I hear it. It can just be, just audio only, and I feel like I would get the chills from this. The quotes, you got strong side, my side, and everything else. Just great, inspirational movie, super high on my list.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Remember the Titans. It was on my list to begin with, and I ended up not. It didn't finish on my list because I have another football movie that I feel takes its place that I enjoy a little bit more. But yeah, it's I remember seeing that in theaters and just kind of being blown away by how good it was. And you had that one guy in the theater that when Denzel they beat that coach that's super racist, and he throws that banana to him, and that guy, this guy in the theater just stands up and starts clapping, and I was like, oh man, you don't have to do all that. You could appreciate the moment, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. So for me, number 5, this is the movie that took Field of Dreams' place, just because, again, to me, it's if I had to pick between the two, I would watch this one over Field of Dreams. Is Major League. Just as far as ensemble cast, I mean, there's so many. You can't look at the guy that played Doran as anything else than that. He's not huge big time actor, but I feel like every person in their role made that role iconic. I forget the guy's name, but the guy that's the old dude that has all the different stuff all over him. What's his name? I can't remember.
Oh yeah, I mean we know you're talking about the old pitcher.
Yeah, everybody knows what I'm talking about. He's the only old guy on the team. Charlie Sheen before Charlie Sheen took over his body and turned him into Charlie Sheen. Wesley Snipes.
Oh man, Willie Mays Hayes.
Yeah, I mean, and then Tom Berenger is the old cranky veteran. Just a great movie. So again, ton of classic moments. They still play the Wild Thing, at baseball games, and they still, I remember the scene when they're in the it's showing the people in the bar when they win, and I mean you get goosebumps. That whole scene when he takes home and the guy bunts. I mean, just the whole thing was great. I love that movie. It's probably it's not my favorite baseball movie because I'll get to that in a little bit later, but it's my second favorite baseball movie.
Yeah, another one that bounced around in my list. I don't have it in mind, but it's such great comedy and a good story. But so many moments, so fun. I always love the where do you think you're going? It's about 90 feet. He's getting his gloves ready. Yeah, it's just so great. So many points. The Jobu, God.
Yeah.
You didn't even mention like there's like he's like sacrificing chickens, talking to his bat. Like there's just so many things going on in that movie that are so great. It's like it's a great movie when like Charlie Sheen's like a side effect of the movie. Like he's
Yeah,
just a piece of it. He's not the whole thing. Like that's what makes it so great.
yeah, I agree. Number 4 for me is Friday Night Lights. Um, Friday Night Lights to me was so it came out probably I can't remember when it came out, but I remember it was close to when I graduated high school. And I remember it was the first kind of high school sports movie that felt real to me. It felt like it really kind of honed in on what it was like to play high school sports, and the football action was probably some of the best that I've ever seen in a football movie. You had Billy Bob Thornton, uh, did a great job in that movie. It just felt more like real and more like there wasn't anything cheesy in that movie at all. It just felt really kind of down to earth and really a good take on kind of what it's like for some of these kids playing in some of these Texas, football towns. I mean, that is not an exaggeration of how people react when a team loses or whatever. I mean, I think that's pretty accurate depiction of how it goes. So that'd be my number 4 is Friday Night Lights.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Some good, memorable speeches in there too. Like if you're talking coach speech, I always love the good coach speech, especially good halftime or pregame speech. Some great stuff in there. And yeah, we both grew up around that stuff. People like I feel like as I travel or meet people, that's one of the things they bring up. It's like, oh, you're from small town Texas. Like, oh yeah, like Friday Night Lights, and I'm like, it's not that far off. Like,
Yeah.
it is pretty close. Like one of the things that they think about. Too bad the television show was just like a Lifetime movie.
Right.
Oh God, so bad. I feel
Yeah.
like it's really bad.
Yeah, I never watched it because I never thought that it'd be something I'd be into. But yeah, I mean, there was just so many. I mean, I'm just thinking about it now, like, when they go and they have to have the coin flip to decide who goes. I mean, there was just so many like great dramatic moments that you kind of knew were gonna play out. And it was one of the first times that you saw the team in the movie lose, kind of in the championship. Like most teams in those sports movies, they win. Well, in this one, they didn't. I know it's based on
spoiler
real
alert.
Yeah. Well, if they haven't seen it by now, then some guy at home sitting there who's just about to put it into his DVD player, and he's like, "Damn it." Thanks a lot, guys. So yeah, number 4 for me, Friday Night Lights. What'd you have at number 4?
So here's the one that I wasn't even sure the name. This is where everybody's gonna zone out because no one's gonna know what this is. My number 4 is the 1966 film The Endless Summer. Any bells? Nothing.
I know it's about surfing.
It is about surfing. Probably like the greatest surf documentary. Is done in total 60s style, where it's like goofy music and like they play with like the video speed to make some things look funny. But it was like the iconic set of surfing movies. Like everything comes down to this. But it's kind of a documentary. I mean, you can tell some of it's storyline scripted, but it's about two guys that literally decide they're going to do an endless summer, which means they travel around the world as the seasons change. So they have an entire year. They have an entire year of summer.
And Rob Banks?
No, they don't rob banks. This is not my favorite.
Oh.
You want the ultimate? But speaking of that, it crossed my mind. I couldn't do it.
I've seen other lists where it has it up there, and I don't think of it as I don't consider it a sports movie.
Just because of Johnny Utah.
Yeah.
No, but it's a super cool flick. I always recommend if you're bored on one day and you just want to toss something in and check it out. It's super 60s, but super cool surf movie. They've done an Endless Summer 2 since then, which was in the 90s. And A Step into Liquid, which is in the 2000s. It's all very similar. But definitely the icon of the surfing movies, the beginning. So that was my number 4.
Spoiler alert, that didn't make my list.
I told you. I'm surprised you heard of it.
I've heard of it. I'm not going to lie, I haven't seen it.
I didn't think so.
I don't think my hair's long enough to see it. yours at one time. I feel like that was in your man bun stage. Is when
Yeah, surfing. I
you're
have
like,
like
man,
a
let's
man
just.
bun and a surfboard.
You're
Yeah,
sitting there. You're like, man, I should probably go out. No, I'm just gonna watch Endless Summer again.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I'm just waiting on the next set, bro.
exactly. So let's move on. Number three for me is just to this day. I watched it as a kid, and to this day, it's one of the most quotable movies I think I've ever come across. It's so funny, and I could watch it today just like I was a little kid again. Is Little Giants.
Yeah,
Um, you know that movie. Talk about another movie that you probably couldn't make now. Like the first 10 minutes, they won't let the girl on the team mainly because she's a girl. Like people would walk out of theaters now and they would have to pull it from the theaters and do reshoots. But
yes. Did the little girl's salary match everybody else's salary? That would be
yeah,
That'd
yeah,
be the BuzzFeed story.
yeah, exactly. But it's just such a cool movie. Spike, I think in the championship game or in the game, he ran for like 353 yards and three touchdowns, but they still lose somehow. Um, and then I always found it weird that at the end, Rick Moranis is like, "Hey, how about we join teams?" And I was like, "Dude, they're gonna like all the guys that you just beat are better than your guys. Like they're gonna start over your people. So you basically just ruin the entire point of them playing in the first place." Um, but when the little kid with the glasses comes in and he's in like that tube, he looks like the Michelin Man, and he's like, "Yeah, my mom said that the pads you gave me weren't enough." He's just like waddling back and forth. But probably my favorite quote from that movie or scene is when they're sitting there, they're freaking spying on their practice, and the guy is sitting there, and he goes, "Oh my god!" He's like, "They got the center lined up at the guard, and the wide receivers where the running back should be, and the quarterback's not even there." And Ed O'Neill's like, "They're standing around." I mean, just
So great.
just think about that movie, man. I remember that was when VHS was everything, and you could you could put like three movies on one tape, and man, we used to watch the shit out of some Little Giants, man. I love that movie. I could watch it right now.
Yeah, it's a great movie. It didn't go on my list, but it's certainly spot in the heart. It's
So
very
you'll
kid.
put
I feel like
so you'll put Endless Summer on your list,
dude, that
but
is a
not
great movie to
Icebox.
me. Yeah. So
Ugh.
you played football, I served. What's the deal?
All right.
It's
Okay.
an iconic movie.
All right.
Robert August,
Who?
surfer. Robert August,
Okay.
surfer
I don't know. I don't know.
from the
The only
60s.
surfer I know about is that Slater guy, and I know him because he dated Pamela Anderson for a while. That's the only
What?
reason I know of him.
Yeah, I don't know. He's won a world championship like every year of your life. I don't
Hey,
know.
he won the world championship of life for a while there.
Anyways, yeah, Little Giants, so great. I mean, there's downsides to every movie. I'm a Cowboys fan, so I mean, Giants, not the greatest, but I mean, they could have gone a different direction there. But besides that, it's great. The annexation of Puerto Rico, so quotable.
Still
What
works.
a great name. Like that's my favorite part. It's like you're like this little nerdy kid, like the annexation of Puerto Rico. It's just so classic. Yeah, as a kid, I think if you're somewhere around your 30s right now, it's probably got a special place for you. All right, top three. Number three for me. This is my special place kids movie. Always up there. That's Space Jam, dude.
Good one.
Oh yeah,
I should have. Yeah, that's a good one.
yeah. As a kid, like I wore that one out more than anything. It definitely had a VHS on that. Jordan was everybody's hero. Of course, Bill Murray. How many times has Bill Murray made this list? It's amazing.
Yeah, not enough.
Yeah. You have Jordan. You have freaking Looney Tunes. You've got Sean Bradley. There's some bonuses. It's got so many things going on in that movie that it's just greatness. Like as a kid's movie, there was nothing better. Like I couldn't imagine like you're putting Michael Jordan with Bugs Bunny. Like it's just blowing my mind at that time. And I can still watch it today. It's still, now you get the Bill Murray jokes a little bit more, and some of the inside jokes that the cartoons do a little bit more as you get older, and it never gets old.
Yeah, when he when he's sitting there and he's telling him he's like drawing up an offensive play and all this, and he goes to him, he goes, I give the ball to MJ and you dominate, and he's like, we're on defense. He's like, whoa, yeah. I can't believe I didn't put Space Jam up here. I don't know where it would have fallen, but yeah, man, I watched Space Jam religiously for a long time. Not only that, but I had the accompanying soundtrack
Oh,
that he had that Chris Rock song, Basketball Jones, on there. It was a really good kids sports movie. Like, would I want to watch it right now? Maybe, maybe not. Like, now we kind of realize a little bit more the lack of depth in Jordan's ability to act. Um,
yeah, and Larry Bird in that first scene, it's terrible.
Yeah, but yeah, man, I remember they had all the like cross promotion. Like McDonald's had these cups they would have like a superstar, so it would have like Jordan and Bugs Bunny on the same cup, and they'd be like animated and all this different stuff. So yeah, Space Jam, it's that's a mistake. I should have had that on my list somewhere, but oh well, good pick.
Just so many. Yeah, that soundtrack. I Believe I Can Fly. Like, good lord, how many times did we hear that during
Oh
that
my
decade?
god.
Just over and over. Um, um, I told these guys I want to do the breakdown of the game on one podcast, though. Someone put out the stat sheet on it, and it's absolutely hilarious. The lack of defense is very, very concerning.
Much like the NBA Finals.
Yeah, it's like the NBA Finals. There was like no assists at all, no blocks at all. I love the Bill Murray sheet was pretty thin, but what a great game, what a great movie.
I think he got an assist though.
Yeah, one assist. Like
Yeah.
some college kid watched the entire thing and statted the entire game, like minutes, everything on there. There's a couple of inconsistencies on the time that he notes, but it's so great because the numbers are just ridiculous. We'll have to do that sometime.
Yeah, well, we'll say this. That's actually pretty good, considering what I was doing in college and what we were doing in college. It's probably a better use of his time than we were doing. I mean,
what a great bit.
I mean, this guy had a goal. He went out and he achieved it, and I feel like we shouldn't penalize him for it.
No, what a great bit.
We actually did I don't know if you remember, but me and Mike did a Space Jam 2 where it was basically like we picked players from the past like 20 years, and then we had them play each other. So it was kind of along those lines. Like, we just picked the best players that we could possibly assemble, and that's actually on our webpage if anybody wants to check it out. But
did Sean Bradley make that list?
Sean Bradley sadly did not make that cut. It was close, but he didn't make it. They actually have a 30 for 30. There was like a short one on Sean Bradley the other day I saw. I watched it. It was pretty good. He runs like a youth ministry now or something. But yeah, he seems like a really nice dude. Like, one of the coolest things, we're getting a little bit off topic, but one of the coolest things I found in watching that was his owner. They were having some team meeting at like a strip club or something, and Sean Bradley is Mormon. I can't remember what religion he is, but he was like, dude, I can't. He's like, I'm not going to a strip club. Like, I can't. Like, my religious, I can't. And I just thought that was kind of a stand-up thing. Like, a lot of people just be like, oh, I'll go. But, it's a guy who believed in his principles and things. So it's pretty good if you get a chance to watch it.
I met Sean Bradley one time at a Mavs Day at Six Flags. But he got mad and left pretty early because they wouldn't let him on any rides.
Yeah, dude, he'd get freaking decapitated. Like, from his like sternum up would just be. Yeah. Can you imagine him riding the freaking Runaway Mountain or whatever it is?
Oh yeah.
I mean, my God. So he'd come out and there would just be like half a torso there with blood squirting out.
Yeah.
All right, so we're down to the last two. So for me, this was tough. Which one I was gonna put ahead of the other one? Number 2 for me is, again, childhood favorite. Could watch it if it came on TV right now. I would sit there and watch the entire thing. Is Sandlot. Um, Sandlot was it was that movie that kind of really spoke to you as a kid. Like, hey man, when summer hit, like you got together with your friends, and my dad, he would always tell me because it was kind of based around time period when my dad would have been a kid, and he said, man, that's exactly how it was as a kid. Like you went outside, you found your friends, you went and played baseball, and that's all you did all summer, and I just thought everything about it. You have a lot of quotable lines. Every single little kid is a great little character. Of course, the great Hambino, who'll forever go down as one of the best, characters in kids movies ever. Um, and I remember Wendy Peppercorn was when I first kind of noticed girls as more than just easy targets in dodgeball. You know what I'm saying? Like that's when I was like, okay, so that's what happens when they grow up. Okay, I'm getting it now. But again, just so many cool, moments. So many things that nostalgia wise, for me, I just had to put it in the top three, and I just think it's a great movie. I don't think they make movies like this for kids anymore. Everything's all animated, and I think that's a mistake. I think they should make more movies like this.
Yeah, dude, I feel like is there a lack of kids sports movies now?
There's a lack of kids movies that aren't animated. Like everything's animated now.
Is this a participation trophy movement? Is that why?
Yeah, they probably don't want to have anybody. They probably don't want to have anybody lose in the movie. So.
Oh man, did you see? I know this is again off topic. There was like a kids soccer team in like Portland who were doing ballless soccer because it took the competitiveness out of it. And I'm not making this up. Like this was a thing. They had like video, like a news story out there. Like ABC was out there, and they were like, "Well, it's less competitive," and so they're like fake passing this ball and fake shooting. It's like, what is? Oh my gosh, we need more.
Well, it started gradually. Like I remember when I was a kid, like third grade, we played in basketball. We played on 10-foot goals. Well, when my brother, he was younger than me, when he got to that age, they had lowered the goals down to 8 feet, and then they have all these different rules now. You can't full court press if you're up by 20. Now, some of the things I'm okay with, like I don't think you should be able to sit there and beat a team by 50. Whatever. Right. But yeah, I mean, we look at things like that, and while that doesn't really shock me, I mean, you look at the way some of these college kids are behaving in these colleges, where after the election they had like a cry-in, and everyone just had a safe space so that they could cry about what happened. I mean, give me a break. Like,
yeah, we need more youth sports movies.
Yeah, I feel like if this generation, exactly,
like they have to try hard and work and like actually make some effort to get to the things that they want. Maybe that's what we need. We need more kids sports movies.
I agree. I think that's the problem with society right now.
Lack of kids sports movies. We solved it. We did a lot today.
So what do you got at number 2?
This is where I put Caddyshack. This movie would make a top 10 of my all-time favorite movies. Like that's how high this thing is. Like comedy is easily top 3. Take out the sports on it. I freaking love this movie. Like I've watched it probably more than anything else on this list. And like you said, the amount of characters, the depth. I can still watch it today, and I'm gonna pick up on something that they're doing that I didn't see the last 80 times. Like there's some little nuance. Like Chevy Chase is the master of that, right? Same thing with like Christmas Vacation. Like I can watch that, and then something that he's doing is so off, but like he's just, that he's waiting for people to pick up on it. Is just so great. I mean, it's so over the top. Like I don't like the Rodney Dangerfield. It's so dumb. Like it's so ridiculous, but for somehow it fits in this movie, like so perfect. The judge, Spalding. God, I love Spalding.
Like, Spalding is the best.
It's such a little thing in there, which is funny. I know you don't listen to Ticket, but I'm a huge fan of Ticket here in Dallas, and they call Jerry Jr.'s kid Spalding, which is perfect because like you'll see him now every time I see him in the press box, like they'll shoot to the press box, and I just think Spalding like he's like in the background, like looking at a wall or something while they just scored a touchdown. But there's so many little moments in there. They're just so amazing. As a kid, there was like boobs in it. That was awesome.
Awesome.
Very awesome. But just like next level jokes and all you can tell so much is improv. Love this comedy. So great.
Yeah, I agree. I had it later on my list, but it's just a classic movie that I hope that they never redo or try to reboot. Like I hope they never try to do that.
Well, I don't think you can. Like they're in the era, and I was talking to somebody else about this the other day. Like they had this era from like you can lump in like maybe like a Blazing Saddles in with, or some of these other movies where they could do this kind of comedy, whether it was racism or whatever it was, but everybody was cool with it because they knew it's just comedy. Like everybody's making fun of everybody. It's all fun and games. Nobody's getting hurt. It doesn't have to be PC at all. And I don't think they can do it anymore. Like it just wouldn't survive. It wouldn't do it.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's sad. All right, so we've gone down our list. It's time for number one. So what do you got as your greatest sports movie of all time?
Man, I love this movie so much. I don't think it didn't fall on a lot of lists. Like, of course, I did my research, looked at other people, so I didn't miss any movies. But this one to me, just because it's one of the most interesting sports figures in my mind, and I feel like Will Smith did a great job. Is I put Ali here. I love this whole movie. The story about how Will Smith actually waited to do it. He didn't feel like he was ready. They offered him the role earlier. And he comes in and does such a great movie. I love the Ali story, so I thought he served it well, and it's definitely one that I can watch it any time that Ali's on. I can stop and watch it.
A movie that it didn't make my list, but another movie, a boxing movie that I really there's really good boxing movies. Most of the boxing movies are really good, but The Hurricane is another one that's really good. My number one. It's probably a cliche because I think most people it's up there for most people, but Rudy, just everything about it. It's a great story. It's based on a real guy. It's he's always facing this adversity, and even at the end, like I think most people think of succeeding or winning is that you have to win the championship at the end of the thing, or you have to score the winning touchdown. Or well, for him, man, it was just about getting on the team, like just stepping on that field in the uniform. And there's just something I just think there's something great about that. And like we talked about, working towards something, like having a goal and working towards that. And I just think this movie did it better than any other movie I've seen. I mean, if you look at his per snap stats, he's probably the best of all time. I mean, he had one defensive play and he got a sack. So, and just everything that had to happen. Vince Vaughn had to call that audible, and then you had the coach. Like, I wonder if that coach in real life was that stubborn. Like, hey, even though all these kids did this to put him in, and we're up by 40. No, I can't put him in. I just won't do it. Like who would do that? Like most of the time now, like coaches put them in the first play of the game just so they can step on the court or step on the field. And just a scene where all the guys come in and put their jerseys down. It's just a great one of the great scenes in sports movie history. So that would be my number one. Like we said, there's just too many. When you really start thinking about it, man, there's just so, because even in my head right now, I'm thinking, The Hurricane was great, and The Fighter was awesome. Cinderella Man, League of Their Own. I could have put League of Their Own up there. It's a
Raging Bull.
Just so many good movies that top 10 is really tough to kind of narrow down.
7 Days in Hell.
Yeah, I don't know if that. Rookie of the Year almost made my list.
Oh yeah.
It was close, but so that's our countdown. Let us know in the comments or anywhere else if you agree or disagree or what you would have up there. We just got the website finished. It's up, boardonthursday.com. Check it out. It's got our podcast episodes, our blog posts, stuff like that. And we're going to be trying to really grow it and branch it out more and more. So help us do that. If you go on there, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, any of that stuff. We're at Board Sports, BORED Sports. And I'm actually did my quarterback rankings last week. Me and my brother did an episode, hoping to do the running back rankings in a couple days. And so, once football season hits, I'm going to be doing weekly fantasy rankings. Who should you sit? Who should you not? Daily fantasy stuff. So we'll be having a lot of information about that coming up. JJ, you got anything you want to add?
Oh, no, that's it. Good time on here. Keep letting us know if you guys have some topics or something you want to hit. I'm right now going to pitch out. We're probably going to do at least a couple Game of Thrones things coming up. It's almost season, so we're definitely going to get in that. I'll be all involved in that. But let us know things you want to hear. That's the best way for us to get these ideas and get out what you want.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, appreciate you taking the time to listen to us, and hopefully we shared some knowledge with you today, and you have a greater understanding for movies such as Bloodsport and Endless Summer, whatever that is. But again, thanks for taking the time and listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys.